super sketchy then. There wasn't much investment. Now there's a lot of investment, a lot better, like people have stucco homes instead of shacks, you know. But yeah, there's machine guns everywhere all the time. Yeah.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Makes you appreciate where we live.
Yeah.
Parker is on.
All right. Hey, Parker. All right. Let's go ahead and call the March 2nd, 2026 Tipton Utility Service Board meeting to order. The first item on the agenda, the minutes from the last meeting.
Move they be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the last meeting as submitted. Any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we'll move to claims.
I make a motion, we pay claims 27,599 through 27,646 for $318,395.38.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the claims as submitted. Anybody have any questions about those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Down to you, sir.
Okay, I emailed out the January financials. We're off and running for 2026. I think the only point I would make is year over year, we're down $118,000. That is after using cash balances to pay for about $1.2 million worth of rolling equipment and infrastructure improvements in the water. So we should start ramping back up hopefully in 2026. And then I also, does someone have a question? Oh, okay. I also sent out just a reminder where we stand from a debt standpoint. Back in 2015, 2016, there was a pretty major project that was financed through a bond at the wastewater plant, and we still owe a little over $3 million on that bond, and that will run to 2035, unless and until we add to it in the future. And then our CSO stormwater stuff that's been ongoing for 15 years now. The major investments there. That was a bond that was stretched out for looks like 30, 40 years because it's 11.7, almost 11.7 million that we owe until 2054. So we're free and clear in the water and electric departments at this time, and we make bond payments in June and December. So this will keep creeping down as we go. Any questions on that?
Interest rates on the SRF, were they zero?
Let me check into that. There was one of them, there was a zero rate. They finagled some money around somehow that paid for it to get to a zero. Yes. I'll confirm that, Mark.
Doesn't seem like they all are, but I think a portion of them are.
Yeah, if I remember right, they wanted to do that Tipton project.
Yeah.
Yes. Just a few other items. We do have a safety meeting coming up on Wednesday, March 18th. It'll be storm restoration. Should be a good subject matter for city and utilities, and we've had good turnout from the city when it's non-electric, which we always try to point that out. So Dylan and his team and Diana and some have been showing up for that. So I did attend last Friday's IMPA board meeting. Pretty light agenda, but it got interesting. And also Colin Huffhines, the new city planning department lead working for the mayor, he joined me. So he got a crash course on what IMPA does, and I think he was very impressed, obviously, with the structure and the facilities and just the depth and breadth of what IMPA does for all the member communities. But one thing that got quite a bit of attention was data centers.
Hmm.
So if I get a call about a data center, it's usually big and broad enough that I'm gonna make a phone call or an email to IMPA and say, hey, what's the next steps here? What do we do? And then they said they've had like 100 of those inquiries from member communities. So their plan, and I think they're replicating what the investor-owned utilities have done, is to set up a process. And like, we want to kind of separate the tire kickers from the medium to the really, folks that might be have a plan and really need to address it. So they're putting together a draft concept, and part of that concept would be to include financial reimbursement, anywhere from, hey, if you're serious about it, we need you to put down X hundreds of thousands of dollars of a deposit. And if you move forward with the project and we assist you, you might get all that back. If you're just gonna make us spend a lot of time, we're gonna bill you like other professional organizations, and you'll get your deposit less billings. And they're trying to figure out a way to allow the IMPA folks to be able to bill as well as the communities, because you remember when the factory sold out there, we had a lot of investment, attorney time. We didn't recover any of that, but I think we felt like that was part of our obligation to help the community. But now if we're getting data center calls, and I've only had one in the last 6 months, and it was a very simple email exchange. I did reach out to IMPA and say, help me answer this question, and they did, but it wasn't like hours and hours on end. But I could see the situation where, what we have to offer in electricity is actually on the small side, even out by the factory who's not using our electricity like we thought. Because when I told them, here's what we have, they're like, well, what would it take to double that? Well, Duke Energy's got high voltage lines coming in. That's the roadblock to more capacity. Now they got a bigger line, 3 times as big, 1.5 miles away. If you want to talk to Duke about getting 230,000 volts over here, we could probably do more. But things like that are going to occur, and our friends over in Frankfurt are this close to actually signing a deal with a data center. So they aren't able to name it, or they said it's a well-known company we would all recognize, but they're tidying up the legal and contractual things.
So these requests are just for information on capacity and usage type.
Yep.
Nothing, yeah.
Yep.
I think it's smart to get a deposit.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
work that goes into gleaning that information, so it is
Yeah.
smart to get
And just for context,
skin in the game.
our electrical service area, which is the city and a few miles each way, 4,300 customers, we run through about 25 megawatts a day of electricity. And these data centers, that's way low. They want to start at 50, and if you can get 200 or 300, that would be great. And they're having major conversations with Duke Energy and NIPSCO and all the big boys, but they're poking around everywhere they can. IMPA is just feel like they're going too far into it.
Hey, Jen.
Yes,
Question
President.
on that. Is it part of the process for inquiries to try to filter out what's real and not? Do they account for carrier telco connectivity for potential sites? Because that, regardless of power, if there's not carrier diversity already there, like we're kind of at a disadvantage here with just have TDS and then Zayo, legacy and fiber network. We probably wouldn't. We'd go through the power exercise and be like, well, what carriers are present?
Okay.
Only 2. That's not enticing enough. You got to have probably 3 or 4 carrier options. So I don't know if that's helpful.
No,
I would definitely start with what's the carrier presence and where they think they want to before you even look at power.
It's really good information.
I will offer that up to the powers to be at IMPA. That's a great point. It did not come up the other day. It was more just about what IMPA does, but they were searching. We had quite a discussion. It probably was 30 minutes. It's the longest debate or item that we've talked about in my 5 years going to those meetings. So I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, and here we would have to have at least a third major carrier. And for us to bring something like that, you have to bring it up from the south or Kokomo, and that's just mathematically doesn't make sense. And I even think TDS is strictly from Zayo, so technically we don't even have two, which are big technical. So I would think they would want at least 3 major carrier options for diversity of connectivity, because these data centers are sucking hundreds of gigs of transport outside of power. So I'd be just curious to know if that's factored into their evaluation criteria, because they could save a lot of time just starting there.
I will definitely throw that at IMPA, but that might be why we don't get inquiries. Maybe that's where they do start, and I think there's a lot of information out there on the internet about where all the fibers are, and the main one from Meridian Street coming out of
Well,
Indianapolis.
it's got to be, usually they're going to want carriers, not just 3 major carriers, but they're going to want to have carrier diversity to each of those carriers. So
Okay.
where are they coming from? Not just, can you give me a class for fiber, but I need multi-entrance, and I got to know that you've got path diversity going northwest, east, south in a different ring.
Okay.
Their physical networks. Just in my mind, that would be a really easy way to just cut out the noise.
And that wouldn't probably take too long, even if IMPA did the legwork to just look at all the member communities and say, here's the ones we
Yeah,
found.
that stuff, like you mentioned, is all they want on too.
Okay, great point. I'll take it on. Thank you. And then you might recall I'm on the IMPA Operations Committee. We meet twice a year, and we got one coming up March 12th. So I'll be back down in Carmel, hang out with them. We're mostly talking about the new combustion turbine that's being designed right now in Anderson. So we're getting to the point where I think we'll start talking about construction. That's probably a 2-year project once they start even break ground. So we're still a few years out before we're firing that thing up. But everything's in line, all the permitting and MISO permitting and qualifications, everything's headed in the right direction. A couple other things on the electric, out of the shop at the electric, we had to replace we have an electronic gate out there. So when they're usually out and about in the system doing something during the day, and we'll keep that gate closed because we have a lot of, assets in there. And then especially at night, plus our water tower is located inside that fence. So gate was getting a little shaky and not responsive, and we spent $8,000 to replace that. So I can't remember if it was in these claims or upcoming, but that's what that was for. And then last meeting, I think I mentioned the sewer use ordinance. I'm in the process of drafting a utility board resolution that just basically says every so often we need to update the sewer use ordinance, and then because in this case we are getting encouraged by IDEM to do that. It's been 5 years. Our permit just got renewed last spring, and we had hoped to incorporate changes to accommodate the new tenant out at the factory, but because they're on pause, it's been radio silent on wastewater streams, and IDEM's like, yeah, we need to go ahead and do an update. And then if your new tenant comes through and we need to do another update, that's just what we got to do. So look for a resolution in the first meeting in April for the utility board. And then I mentioned earlier today to the mayor that then we would go to city council for official approval through ordinance. Was it 2 readings? Yeah. But what I'll do is here's the old language, here's the changes. It's like half a dozen items maybe at the most. So should be pretty straightforward.
We get item direction from those changes, or is that where it comes
We'll
from?
run it by them first to make
Okay.
sure it meets what they think we need to be doing.
I assume.
They definitely had some comments on it, and
Okay.
we'll have that all teed up ahead of utility board and city council for sure.
Very good.
Yeah, last thing I'm gonna do is think we did it. Get it rejected.
Them tell
by
us they're wrong. We're wrong. Yeah.
Just a few other updates. Our lift station pumps were expecting here in the next month or so that we ordered. Car wash, I'm still waiting on the former owner of the Swifty property. They responded 2 weeks ago, said they're working on it. I asked them last week, are you making any headway? And I didn't get any response, so I don't want to be pushy because the easy answer would be no.
Mhm.
So hanging in there. Haven't heard anything new about on the new speedway out by Camel Crossing. It's moving forward as far as I know. It's right across the street from Love's. And we will have a piece of the water and sewer action on that. The 12-acre property the city owns behind Tim Davis Collection Building, there's processes in place that's being reviewed and approved, and what will be, I don't think it'll get done in March, but maybe in April through planning. And in the meantime, we've been coordinating with the contractor on utilities, and I think our piece is pretty simple and we should definitely not be a bottleneck on that. So nothing new out west on the Sturt property or the Campbell property. Jefferson Street, the LPA grant from Buck Creek to Independence Phase 1. We are actively having meetings with the engineer. So the city street, utilities, that thing's moving forward for what, 27 or 28 construction potentially?
28, I believe.
Yeah, but they're in full design, and we have water lines to replace underneath the street, but then there's also a 30-inch sewer down by, I think it's 3rd Street, that comes right across Jefferson, and then a new storm sewer is going to go in, so we're figuring out the logistics of that. It's kind of taking a little bit of our time, but that's part of it. And then we've got wind that the Phase 2 from Independence going east out towards 19, that we maybe got that approved.
Correct.
And that's even 2 more years out, so they won't even probably start the design until sometime later this year.
Give us a chance to upgrade some things along there as well.
Yep. I actually think Phase 2 might be less intensive on our part, but there will be some water line to replace along there, but I don't think the sewer crossings are quite as challenging there. No new news on the city county utility front. I know the mayor had sent out a letter, a couple months ago, and I haven't gotten any feedback. I don't know if you guys about, hey, we got a hot one on the stick or not, so. Next meeting in 2 weeks. I think that's all I got.
Very good.
Is AES I saw potentially has sold?
Yes.
Does that bother us at all?
Bothered me. I own a little bit of stock. Went down $2.50 today.
Should go up though.
No, I don't think so. We all our interactions with investor-owned utilities are with Duke Energy. We're beholden to them, and our IMPA is we're joint transmission owners with Wabash Valley Power also being a minority owner. So really don't know what's going to happen down Indianapolis. But AES is a really big company. They have assets in South America and all over the country, and based in Arlington, Virginia. So
It'd be interesting to see what they paid for the place as a perspective.
yeah.
Mhm.
Is that investigation that the commission that's going to investigate the larger companies? I guess we just keep an eye on that, see if there's
Yeah,
anything that.
So the president of IMPA, Jack Alvey, he's part of some committees that are part and parcel with the IURC, and so he's got his ear to the ground, thumb on the scale, and I'm not sure we'll have much input, but we'll at least get to hear what's going on. So that wasn't brought up though at the last IMPA board meeting.
All things to monitor. Interesting. Anything else from the board? Councilman?
I'm thinking on that website stuff. I'll shoot you an email. I'll run sync on that real quick.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Councilman Rippey?
I'm a happy camper.
Great.
Over what?
Mayor?
I didn't have anything until I thought of this conversation about utilities. The city joined the Central Indiana Regional Development Authority, which includes most of the communities in that Indianapolis and the rings thereafter. I serve on a committee, which is, I think they deem the utility committee. So it's comprised of mayors and communities across this region, mostly as a means for the communities who aren't blessed with IOPA. Who have challenged with their utilities. Most notably, I think those in Hamilton County have challenges with Duke, I think is one that comes to mind. But the premise of this is trying to build those relationships with local communities and their utility provider. I sit across the table from Brian Brackemeyer, so from IEPA, so not a concern from our perspective, but data centers was a major conversation. It wasn't originally an agenda item, but because the prevalence of these keep coming up, is one that spent a lot of time discussing, but just wanted to mention to you all that I do serve. My service to that committee is because we are an IEPA. We own our local electric utility. The need for this committee is almost exclusively from the electric perspective, especially as these economic development prospects continue to request more and more usage out of us. To hear you say that our entire network might use 25 megawatts a day, we're seeing prospects asking for multiples of that number. So that continues to grow, and I think there's other communities across the state a little concerned with how are we as a state trying to keep up with the generation that's necessary to keep this going. So just want to mention that I am serving on that capacity and along with our brethren from IEPA.
Great.
Awesome, thank you.
Bob? I saw you writing. I knew you had it.
They did. Thank you, Don. Bob Edinger. When you were talking about the plan out at 2831 being paused, what do you mean by that?
So the new tenant bought the factory in September of 2024, and they had conveyed a game plan to all of us that by late 2025, they need to be in production of their product, phase one, and by middle of 2026, they'd be in high production of their product. And that would require a lot of water, wastewater, and electricity on our part. And about 6 months into last year, we've been having conversations because their wastewater stream was gonna have some nasties in it. And then the conversations just stopped and it went radio silent. And my exchanges with the client, the tenant, is that they're on pause as far as what they plan to do with the facility. And they're currently only using it to warehouse some of their other products in their pipeline, but they're not producing anything. They're not requiring any utilities, so to speak, that we thought they were gonna need.
Have we put money into what they thought they were gonna need?
We have not put any money into it. They have put deposits down to meet their current needs, and we had a game plan as they ramped up that the deposit would grow, but obviously since they haven't ramped up, that's not been the case.
I assume they still have utility bills.
They do, and they pay water, sewer, and electric.
Out at Doctor's Park, I see work on the south side of the road. Is that part of what's going into Doctor's Park, or is that something different?
I don't have a input on Doctor's Park. That's a county project. I know we got requested about getting electrical service to their pump station a couple weeks ago. That's the only thing I've heard about Doctor's Park. I think they're moving forward. Last I knew, they were moving forward, but I don't know what work's going on. It's all through the county.
There was something going on the south side of the road, kind of straight out from the western part there. I'm not sure what they were doing.
I don't know.
When you're talking about the power for the data centers in Duke, were you meaning they'd be getting their power from Duke, or we would get power from Duke and sell to them?
We would get the power to Duke, and if they're in our service area, they have to purchase the power through us, some way, shape, or form. But our service area, Duke Energy high voltage lines come in, so Duke would, something that big, Duke Energy would have they would participate in what would be allowable and if upgrades need to be made and things like that.
I assume there'd be cost to the utilities to do all this?
My assumption would be that the data center customer would pay for any upgrades, whether it's to us, to Duke, to IMPA.
I think we need to be clear that there's nothing proposed. I mean, so.
Yeah,
we don't-
like
we
I
don't
said,
wanna
I've had
confuse-
one inquiry in the last 6 months and it was just a brief email exchange, so there's nothing cooking in our service area.
Well, I mean, I wasn't necessarily thinking there was, but I just want to know what the implications were to, say, myself as a power customer. If something like that would happen. But, thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Bob. Anything else?
Move we adjourn.
Second?
Okay, got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thanks, Parker.
Do you want to get back?